Welcome back to Running Strong Mind Body Connection podcast. I'm so excited to have you guys here. This is the podcast where we can explore the powerful link between mental fitness, resilience, and what's truly possible for our bodies and our lives. I'm Karen Bonnet-Natraj, your host. I'm a mental fitness and peak performance coach, ultra runner, and someone who believes it's never too late to rewrite our story. And today's guest is living proof of that. After losing over 100 pounds, Ralph laced up his running shoes for the very first time at the age of 50, not just transforming his health, but his entire identity. And if that wasn't inspiring enough, he turned his journey into humor and hope for releasing a joke book about weight loss that climbed all the way to number 33 on Amazon. So, this is a story about reinvention, courage, and what happens when you decide your past doesn't define you. Well, your past doesn't define your future, right? So, hey, let's dive in. Well, everybody, we're diving in with my new friend Ralph Sutton, and I'm super excited to have Ralph because I think he's going to have a very inspiring story for us. And Ralph, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't think I run as much as your last week's guest, but I do what I can.
Or me either, because I'm a 100-mile runner.
That's crazy. Per week or per what?
No, I've done 50 100-mile runs, and this year I'm training for the Cocodona 250-mile run.
And on average, on a week, when you're not training, but when you're just like casually running, how many miles a week are you running?
Oh, probably 30 to 50.
Okay.
Yeah. And so share with my guests who you are, brief intro bio, who you are, and your story of.
As it pertains to running, or just my life in general?
You guys do your life in general and running.
All right, I'll try and cliff note it as best as possible.
Awesome.
First, on the interesting side, I am a twin, but I am 6'6", and my twin brother is 5'7", which is always crazy. I was born New Year's Eve. He was born New Year's Day. We're 4 minutes apart. And I'm 56. I was born in 69. He was born in 70. First time ever twins were born in different decades. Days, years, and decades, right? Growing up, I was in the nightclub space of New York. I ran restaurants. I went to cooking school. I did like strip club DJing. I've done all these crazy things growing up. But then at some point, I got into radio about 1999. I got into radio. A couple of years later, my show was syndicated on close to 100 stations. I ended up getting a job at MTV, VH1, hosting music festivals, rock concerts all around the country, and did that for the bulk of my adult life, from 29 to early 40s. And then what happened was when I was 45 in 2015, my dad got sick, and he was sick with cancer for about a year, and he passed away in 2016. And then soon after, literally like 3 days later, my mother called me. My parents had been divorced when I was a kid, and her brother was not answering the phone. So I went to Brooklyn. I live in Manhattan. I banged on his door and broke into his house, and he was almost at death's door. We had to get him to a hospital. And for the next 4 years after that, I was taking care of him until he passed away in 2020. So for like 5 years was around death and disease and stuff like that. Prior to then, I was always in decent shape, never in great shape, but in good shape. Never ran a day in my life, but would work out and do things that were health conscious, we would say. But in 2016, when my father passed, I got depressed and miserable, and that continued for the years of taking care of my uncle until he died. There was like other things going on, a lot of negative things going on in my life, to where I gained about 125 to 150 pounds. I always say I don't know what my maximum density was, because I stopped weighing myself when I saw 325 or 326 or something like that. I was like, I cannot look at that scale anymore. And that was right before COVID started. So COVID, we're all baking bread like jackasses, and we think it's fun and funny in the beginning until we realize it's going for the long haul, right? So that was March. By May, there was a very specific day, because I was being told I work in media. As I said, I have a podcast that does quite well. I own a podcast network now. We do a couple million listeners a week. It does pretty well, right? And when you have a relatively popular podcast, especially in the comedy space, I was being called every ridiculous name online because I had gotten so fat and it looked like I was going to die. They were making fun of me, which don't get into the entertainment world if you don't have a thick skin. So I'm just telling you that story because it was part of the motivation, you know? But in 2020, at some point, I ate a full large pizza. Then I ate a pint of ice cream. And then this is before the restaurants closed in New York where you could still eat outside. Someone said, "Hey, do you want to go for dinner?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll go for dinner." So I ate God knows how many calories in one sitting, probably 3,000 calories, and then went and had dinner with some friends. And that's when I came home and I saw that same day, like a side angle picture of me from the show where I could see, oh, I really am overweight. I really am not in a good headspace, right? And so I need to make a change. And around that same time, I started my health podcast with a friend of mine. I helped him build this company in New York called Juice Press, which is at one point up to 100 locations in New York. It was raw vegan food. And I was just helped him do it because I had a background in restaurants. But he and I started a podcast that was the goal to make me feel better and be in a better headspace. That was the idea of that podcast too, right? So in May of 2020, was that a dog or a cat, by the way? It's a cat?
That's a cat.
Oh, it's
and
cute.
they start playing when I get on podcasts.
Oh, it's funny. Cute kitty.
They're my CEOs.
I just saw the tail. I didn't see what it was. So in May of 2020, I decided I'm going to make a change. I downloaded this app called C2 5K, Couch to a 5K, to those that don't know it.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, under no circumstances will I not miss a run. I won't miss a run, right? And I had tried running a couple times in my life, but never stuck with it. And I was like, oh, it's raining, I'm not going to run. Oh, it's too cold, I'm not going to run. And I made this decision where every other day I'm going to run. And I'm talking about like snow, rain, heat. My water bottles have frozen over more often, you know, because I'm running in sub-zero temperature, whatever. And I was running for a little bit, and then my trainer, who I couldn't see him at that point either, he said to me, I would send him my runs every day. And I was running a 14-minute mile. You know, I was very slow. It took me months to get to where I could run a mile because I had never run a day in my life. I could run half a block and had to take a break, but I was going out every other day, no matter what. And there's a book called Atomic Habits that talks about two people that are trying to quit smoking. Yeah. And a month goes by, and both offered a cigarette. One says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." And the other one says, "No thanks, I don't smoke." That person identifies as a non-smoker, right? And up until that point, when I was sending my runs to my former trainer, he would say like, "Oh, you're a runner." And I'm like, "No, I fucking hate it, but I'm going to do it because I have to lose weight." And after I heard that, I'm like, you know what? I am a runner. Screw that. And I started posting on my social media, talking about it on my show. I would never talk about it prior to then. And it became somewhat part of my identity, which I think is very important for people to stick with it. And then I got to be able to run 3 miles, 5 miles, eventually got to a half marathon, and then decided it would be fun to run a half marathon every other month somewhere else around the world. And I ran 10 half marathons in 10 different cities, like 4 or 5 in America, 4 or 5 around the world, in Iceland, in Scotland, in Ireland, in Hawaii, and just all over the place, right? And I've been doing it now. I run about 30 miles a week. I lost about 115 pounds over the last 4 years or so, right? And I have almost never missed a run unless I hurt myself or was sick. Never don't go out because I don't feel like it. That has never happened. I always will go. And then the funniest thing to put a button on this whole story was twofold. One, a big change was I would listen to educational podcasts when I run, or autobiography or something like that, because I felt like I was improving my body and mind at the same time. And my deal with myself was I would never listen to that book unless I'm running. Whatever it was that I was into, don't listen to it unless you're running, or science podcasts or whatever. And as I lost this weight and started posting all this stuff, the same people that were calling me fat a year ago were like, how did you do this? Before Ozempic, obviously. How did you do this? What did you do? What was your trick? So as a joke, I put out a book because nobody wants to hear I ran every other day for 2 years. I stopped eating shit. I go to bed early. I don't drink too much. I try to live a healthy. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear some kind of cute answer like, oh, be vegan before 6 or only eat between 12 and 5. Nobody wants to hear the real answer, right?
Right.
So as a joke, I told my brother I'm going to put out a book about how to lose weight and how to get in shape. It went to number 33 in Amazon for one day,
Yeah.
but I could say I'm a best-selling author because of it. And it's
Right.
called the 100% Guaranteed Guide to Weight Loss and Fitness. And I told people, if this book doesn't work, I will give you your money back, right? Chapter 1, which is page 1, is eat less. Chapter 2, which is page 2, says work out more. And then 198 blank pages. And I sold thousands of them. I'm a best-selling author. So I have been now running for 5 years. In May, it'll be the ending of 5 years. And I've run about 30 miles a week. I started at like 14, 15-minute miles. Now I comfortably run sub-10s. I could run a sub-8 if I'm really pushing myself. But I am 6'6". I'm a big dude. You don't see a lot of big people running. It just isn't what it is. But I've never hurt myself running other than one time I fell in a construction site, which was my fault. But other than that, never hurt myself. I take recovery seriously, and that takes me to today.
Oh my God, that's a great journey.
Thank
That
you.
is a great, great journey. And just the fortitude of what it takes to lose that weight. And I'm super stoked to hear that story because I have a couple other people that been on that podcast, but they went through the surgery.
Yeah.
And I do have a very close friend of mine who I was working with who weighed over 500 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the same, well, kind of what you were doing. He let his mom feed him. He didn't do his own eating anymore and then started walking and then got to the point where he lost 3 of me. So he lost well
Wow.
over 300 pounds.
Yeah. So I believe that the problem with the surgeries and the problem with the Ozempics, I
Yes.
understand certain people definitely need maybe a push, right?
Yes.
But the people I know that are doing either of those things, what bothers me that I am sure will be a long-term side effect down the road
Yep.
is that they're not changing their dietary habits. They're not changing their physical activity levels. They're eating less because it makes them not want to eat. So what they're doing is they're losing mass, but they're not getting healthier. They haven't done anything to increase cardio strength, to increase muscle mass. They're just eating less. And that's the problem with all those because you're healthier because you've lost mass, but nothing about your body's metrics are healthier other
Right.
than that because most of these people are just eating smaller versions of the shit they were already eating as
Right.
opposed to making changes.
Right. I agree with you. To add to that, though, too, I've seen somebody who had the surgery and now is even heavier
Oh, that
than
happens
they
a
were
lot.
before they had the surgery. And I don't believe change happens until we choose to make that change to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I believe that I concur with you on the fact that sometimes some people do need this, but still, it's the commitment that you want to change and you want to make that change because it's not healthy in any way to be doing the bypass or even being on a drug
Right.
and not change your daily
A
habits.
drug that they don't have very long-term data on. That is what freaks me out. Who knows 10 years from now what you find out about Ozempic or any one of these GLP-1s? You have no
Well, one
idea.
thing I learned in my own health journey, now I've never been overweight. I can't claim to that, but I always
Mhm.
had that healthy mindset. But then still there's I got shingles one year
Mhm.
and it just blew me away because I thought I was eating healthy, but that's not
It's not
not
related
true
to
in a
shingles,
sense.
isn't it?
But I learned that everything we filter goes through our liver.
Mhm.
And so all those drugs we take goes to our liver. And our liver processes it. And that's what
Mhm.
creates even more disease in your body because there's all these side effects.
Right. Of
You know,
course. Of
so
course. There's a guy that you would be interested in. We had him on the health podcast. It's called Good Sugar. And it's called Fit. He's called Fit to Fat to Fit. Right.
fit to fat to fit.
And his story is that he was always in great shape.
Yeah.
And he was training his wife's brother who was always overweight. And one day the guy says to him, you don't know what it's like to be fat all the time. You've always been in shape. So you don't know the struggles I'm going through. And so the fit guy says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put on 40 pounds of fat and then we'll lose it together. Right. And so that was his way of like trying to be, in solidarity with his stepbrother. So he
Sure.
gained the weight. Maybe it was 50 pounds. I don't know exactly how. It was a lot of weight. It might have been 50 pounds or more. He did not realize how much it would affect his life. It took him way longer to lose it. He ended up getting divorced. He ended up like really being in a horrible mental state until he finally got back into shape. And he did a whole journey on it. Now he's done it again to show people that you can do it. Right. And so he's done it more than once, and that's his MO. But what I'm trying to say is that the same thing we say on my podcast is you have to be in awe of the change, which is aware that there's a problem, want to change the problem, and then execute the problem. So
I love
most
that.
people don't want to do that many steps. Like
That's
they
right.
don't even want to acknowledge that it's a problem. But that's even the hardest part, and then want to change it because you have to realize, like I said, I think that the best part of my having a health podcast, and this works for whether it's a podcast, a best friend, somebody or someone that you are accountable to for trying to lose your weight. And it could be a
Yep.
friend that we go run together every day, or we eat clean meals every day. It's somebody that you will be a little embarrassed around if you do screw up, that it holds you accountable for staying on the right path.
Yep. That is huge. It is huge, and it's very beneficial having an accountability buddy.
Right.
But it's still, we have to take that mental fortitude, the mental mindset of wanting that change for ourselves, and what does that change look like for you? And are you
Right.
committed to that? I know the one person I know, they did it because they wanted to get into a relationship. They
Right.
wanted to get married again, so they wanted to look good. And so the reason why, no matter what, when it comes down to anything in our life, is it's always about me.
Right.
It's always about the you in you. And so you have to make that choice of really, what do you want? How healthy do you want to be? And when we're young, it's easy. It's really
Mhm.
easy. But we never look at our longevity in life.
Right.
And
That's for
so we
sure.
never know, what are we going to be after 50? What is that going to look like in our life?
Right. You don't think about it because also the part of your brain that thinks about long-term side effects isn't fully formed till you're 27, 28 anyway. So it's never
Right.
been something you address. But also I know now I am healthier at 56 than I was for the last, 10 years or more because, I did some cardio in my 30s and 40s, but I wasn't like I couldn't run a mile probably. I don't know. I was in shape like in terms of like not overweight, but I didn't have strong cardio strength for sure. I couldn't. What's funny is I was in when I was 34, I got on the probably the most popular reality show in the country at the time. It was called Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And they would be 5 gay guys that would make over a straight guy. And so they were going to put me on, and I knew I didn't want the world to see me in bad shape. So I spent like 3 months prior to filming working out every day, and I got into great shape at 34. And that was the last time I felt I was in great shape until now. I would put myself in pretty good shape. Not great, but pretty good shape, especially comparative to where I was 5 years ago.
Right.
I'm an Adonis compared to that. But, that was just years of mental and physical abuse to myself because I wasn't in the right headspace.
Right. And you brought the mental part of that too, and that's what I work on, is the mental fitness part of it, is building that mental fitness. Besides the physical fitness, we have mental fitness, and it's how we talk to ourselves.
Right.
What is the
Right.
stories are you telling yourself that keep you stuck, and that stuckness is going to be being unhappy,
There's a
that you
wonderful
don't want to
book.
look at that.
There's a wonderful book called Chatter that I recommend to people all the time.
Okay.
And it's about how the chatter in your head, how you talk to
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And it really is a phenomenal way to reset how you, and it's all backed up with, I'm a science guy, so it was all backed up with analysis and metadata and studies upon studies to show why this works. And it really does make a difference. And anyone I've recommended that book to that read that book has called me afterwards to thank me.
That's
And I would
cool.
say that if anyone that's listening to this now, to your show,
Right.
it means that they're open to try and make something better. Either they're a runner or they're looking
Right.
to start a health journey. So they've
Right.
already taken that first step.
Right. And I love that. I haven't heard of that book, but that's exactly the training I have in my background is there's the neuroscience behind that and how we can rewire our brain and where
Mhm.
that chatter comes from because it came to us when we were kids
Right.
and we created these voices in our head and we created these beliefs and perceptions in our brain. Then we became an adult and there's nothing but this negative chatter that goes on in our head. And how do we shift that? I just had a workshop last night and the ladies are like, well, so now what? I mean, I love this. And so I bring them through. And no matter what, the chatter in our head is going to be either of the past or the future. It's
Mhm.
going to be a fear-based chatter, but we have nothing but the present moment at this time.
Right. And also
So,
what I tell people all the time is about framing things, about how a negative thing can be framed in a way that's positive. Like the one time I hurt myself running, I hurt my back really bad and I couldn't run for like 2 weeks, right? I couldn't move really, barely.
right.
And some people would be, God damn it, I can't run, I can't move, I feel like crap, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, wow, how lucky am I that I have a job where I could just cancel everything and stay in bed, where most people don't have that luxury. You know, I
Yep.
moved all my meetings, I moved any interviews, and I laid in bed and recovered. So instead of looking at, oh, woe is me, I was like, oh, lucky me. I can do that, you know, and then it's just a simple adjustment in your head about how to look at something that's negative, you know, and I try to do that no matter what it is, that there's always a way, no matter what it is, to almost everything, to frame it in a way that makes you feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's what I teach is what I call a sage perspective, that in any situation or circumstance, there's a gift or opportunity.
Mhm.
And your comment there. So last year I sprained my ankle really bad on a run, and I had a two grades. I had a grade two sprain,
Mhm.
and I always have the mental fortitude to find out the best healing way I can heal myself.
Mhm.
So I found red light therapy. I had acupuncture. I had all these modalities. But I'm sitting there thinking, well, what is the opportunity here? There is no opportunity here, but was open to what is that opportunity? And maybe the opportunity was the race I was going to do. It ended up having a weird cold spell and it poured and snowed and it was
Mhm.
just horrible conditions. And so who knows? I could have broken my leg.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you never know. And it's being open and changing that mindset is huge.
for sure.
One, on our recovery, because when we sit in that negative mindset, you manifest that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, look, your brain recognizes patterns. So I always say that, like it used to be called the Tetris effect, but I forget the
Yeah.
the real name of it. But like the way I always remembered it was when I was used to play guitar. I don't really play anymore, but when I was playing guitar, any song I heard, I would hear the guitar more than anything else because that's what I was working on. I was playing
Uh-huh.
guitar, so I focused on guitar. When you're looking to buy a car, right, and you
Right.
decide I'm going to buy the Ford F-150 or whatever you're going to buy, you start seeing it everywhere. Did
Yep.
everyone else just buy it, or are you just noticing it now? You know,
Right.
so if you notice certain patterns, your brain starts to repeat those patterns and shows them to you because it's all subjective reality. And so if you're living in a negative headspace, you're going to see the negative. It's a
Exactly.
very simple way to look at it. And then my other, which is such a I love this story because it happened to me not that long ago. Um, how most of the time other people who put negativity on you, it's never about you. It's
Right.
right. And so the example I give is like, you get cut off in traffic. You could say, oh, screw you, screw that guy, and get angry. He may be rushing to save his kid in the hospital. You have no idea. You're choosing to make it about you, right? So I was at a restaurant that I used to love to go to for breakfast at the time. I go all the time. And one day the owner comes up to me, English guy, and his wife ran the place. And he says, hey man, I do love your podcast. I said, oh, thanks. It's a show called Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. We interview rock stars a lot, right? And he goes, I am best friends with the singer of Depeche Mode. Would you ever want him on? I'm like, oh my God, like, of course I would want him on. That would be incredible. I'd love it. Here's my email. He just left. He comes to stay with me like once every 3 months. Email me in about 3 months, a little less than 3 months, and I promise you he will do your show. Awesome. Okay. 2, 3 months go by. I email him, don't hear anything. I wait a couple more weeks, email him again, don't hear anything. And I think to myself, this bastard came up to me Like, I didn't ask him. He came up to me and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm never going to that restaurant again. And I stopped going, right? A year goes by. I was in the neighborhood. I'm like, you know what? I'll go eat at this place. I'm in the neighborhood. Let me see what this jackass says to me, right? So I go and sit down and I notice there's a picture of him on the wall. And I say to the waiter, oh, why is there a picture of him here? I never remember this picture. He goes, oh, you didn't hear. About a year ago, he got stricken with violent cancer and died within a month. And I was angry at a dead person for screwing over my show for a year. And I was like, wow, that really shows you. It's fucking never about you. And it was so stupid that I made it about me. And it was a great remembrance to realize that it's almost never about you.
Wow, that is an amazing story. And that's
Yeah.
such a truth.
Yeah.
Because I know that, and the sad thing is kids are raised with like abusive parents.
Mm-hmm.
And we think it's about, but it isn't. It's always their issue. And when you
For sure.
can really separate that, immense peace comes over you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. My joke always was I saw the wife and gave my condolences to her because I knew her forever. And I was joking with my friend afterwards. I was like, I also said to her, hey, did he mention anything about the singer Depeche Mode coming on my show? Like, no, but I would never do that. It's just a funny thought that I would do that.
That's amazing. You have all these podcasts.
Yeah, I have two. So I own a network. It's called Gas Digital. We have about 20 comedy podcasts. And I started it in 2016, right when I was hilariously miserable because my father was dying, but it just started happening at that time because I knew I had to leave radio because radio was just not mattering anymore. I used to host this thing, a bunch of like different rock festivals and cruises, but there was this one called the M3 Rock Festival in Baltimore, Maryland. And to those that have ever been backstage after a show, there's in a big event, there's usually this area, they call it Radio Row, and it's like a line of every person trying to get interviews with the bands as they come off stage, right? And my show, my old radio show was called The Tour Bus. It was always would be the local radio station was the first booth, and my show was the second booth. Always. For the first 2 or 3 years, that's what it was. But then the internet started coming about, YouTube, Spotify, and every year for the next 3 or 4 years, my show was further and further down the lane until the last year, I was literally the last possible person.
Wow.
And everybody in between us and the other show, and the main radio station was like a YouTuber, a Spotify show or whatever. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I probably need to look into podcasting. And at the same time, I was hosting this thing called Shiprocked, which was like a rock festival on a ship. And I partnered up with a comic. Him and I started talking. And then a year later, we started our podcast together called The SDR Show, stands for Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. We've interviewed every rock star and like comedians, everyone from Mark Cuban and Neil deGrasse Tyson to Judas Priest and Gene Simmons. And I mean, anyone you could think of has been on that show.
Wow.
And then about 5 years ago, I started the health podcast. But the main one is Gas Digital and The SDR Show. And the health podcast, which is called Good Sugar, is named after a store that we opened called Good Sugar. That's a vegan, no single-use plastics restaurant in New York City. I'm not vegan. I just think we all should eat more vegetables.
You're quite the entrepreneur, and I commend you on that. I'm impressed with that. It took me a bit to get my podcast going because I really wasn't sure how to do podcasts and wasn't sure where I was going. And I think I knew my name and everything, but it's like took me a year before I started it. And for me, it's grown into this. Now I'm on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And so it's a pretty exciting journey, but it's pretty impressive to just hear, your entrepreneurship behind all this. But you can tell you've been on radio and you're speaking, your microphone, everything. And so this has been a progressive journey for me, and it's been a blast because I get to meet amazing people like you.
I tell everyone start a podcast because unlike there's 10 million podcasts, right? Roughly, right? When I started, I remember there was 100,000. So I started in 2016. And no, actually, my podcast started in 2015. The network started in 2016. And there was 100,000 podcasts. And I was like, oh my God, 100,000. At the time, there was 10,000 radio stations, but 100,000 podcasts. Like, oh my God, it's so many. Like, it's overwhelming. And now there's 10 million, right? But of the 10 million, a lot are abandoned. A lot are like they've done a season and gave up or whatever, or they have less than 100 listeners or whatever. But the reason why I tell people to start a podcast is You're one of 10 million, right? Go start a YouTube show. You're
Yeah.
one of a billion. Go start a TikTok account. You're one of 2 billion. So what's more daunting? And then if you could get to a point where you have 25,000 people listening to your show, you can kind of make a living from a podcast. If you have 25,000 people following you on Instagram, it means nothing. If you get 25,000 people watching a YouTube show, you might make a few dollars. But on a podcast, you can make a living. So you're one of 10 million versus one of a billion, and the barrier to making money is so much lower. Start a podcast. That's what I tell everybody. Just start a podcast.
I appreciate that a lot. So what is going to be your next half marathon?
It's so funny you should say that because
I'm going to let me ask another question to add to that. When are you going to do a marathon?
So every year I try and make a New Year's / birthday resolution that I stick with, right? It started when I was 34, turning 35. It was that I had never left the country other than Mexico and Canada. And back then you didn't need a passport to go to Mexico or Canada. And I had read an article that said 75% of people don't have a passport, is back then, and of Americans, and of the 25% that do, half of them never use it. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to be another stupid American. So I'm going to leave the country every year for the rest of my life. And I've stuck with that New Year's resolution. And that was when I was 35, turning 35. Since then, every year I pick something attainable for the year that I want to do and try and stick with it, right?
Yeah.
It was swimming with pigs. It was I swam with whale sharks. It was just a lot of, it was the running the marathons for 2 years. I did 5 in 1 year, 5 in the next. This past year, 2025, the 4 to 5, it was to get down to under 250 pounds. And now I'm almost going to break 240. I'm 241. So I'm about to hit the 230s, which I have not been since I was probably 35 or something. So that was last year. This year, when I turned 56, it was to run a marathon this year. So
Yay!
I'm planning on running a marathon this year. My next half is the United Airlines half coming up in March, which is right around the corner. I run with my cousin. He's more of he's been my running guru, which everyone has questions when they first start running. And I always tell people, if you have them, email me or text me and I'll give you my best answers that I've learned. I use leg compression for recovery. I take noons and I take elements and I do all the things you're supposed to do to keep up your electrolytes and healthy and try to eat right and do that. In fact, one of the guy that cuts my hair got into running because of me. And he would tell me he would get headaches after about 3 miles. I'm like, yeah, because you're not drinking water and you're not doing anything to replenish your sweat.
Right.
So I went to the hair salon and I brought him a box of noons. I said, for God's sake, start taking these. And now he runs 20 miles a week, so he's doing good. So just funny, but
yeah, it's funny. I was a cyclist too before all this, and then running. And people don't understand that there's more to just go out there and do that. You have to have a lot of. So I there's a couple things, and this is more. Well, I don't know. Even marathoners they do that. I have a couple of affiliates. One is a squirrel nut butter that is an amazing lube for chafing.
Mm-hmm. I use this the Glide. It's called Glide by Arm & Hammer.
Yeah, Glide is, but this is better because they use natural products like coconut oil and essential oils and like that. When I found the owner of it, I'm like, well, I make my own face cream, all holistic, all coconut oil, essential oils, all that stuff. All is going to be healthy for my skin. And here he's making it in squirrel nut butter. And so I have an affiliate link that I put at the end of my podcast, as well as Vespa is another product that's more about metabolizing our fat and burning our fat and keeping your internal stuff healthy. And so recovery is amazing with this product. So and I use that. But it's imperative that what I tell people though too is so would you not put oil in your car ever?
Right.
Run it?
Right.
Then why would you do that to your body? So think about that. You lubricate the engine in your car, so let's lubricate the engine in our body.
Right, of course. I mean, it seems so logical, but people, and also when I was a kid, I was always told, your mind, like as a man, suck it up and get out there. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Squish it down and move on. And then you realize, no, of course the mind and the body are connected. Of course it's all
Exactly.
connected. So it makes
Yeah.
no sense that you think it's not. It's just so stupid. Like we're so obviously need to do things for recovery, need to do
Yeah.
things to get you in the right headspace. It's all uniformed. On my health podcast, once a month, I go out and try something weird or different that's like cutting edge in any other, either it's science based or it's holistic based or whatever, and I will go try it and then report anecdotally if I felt any different, if it did what it was supposed to do for me. And of course it's not for everybody because everyone's different, but at least I give you some sort of baseline interaction as to how I felt by doing certain things. And I've tried dozens of weird things over the last few years, and some I've stuck with. Some I thought were nonsense, and now I do them every week. It depends on what it is.
And that's pretty good. That's a really great idea. I've been through there's different shoes, socks, clothes, everything. I don't know how many different shoe brands I've gone through,
Oh, I'm
different
so
types
pissed
of
about that.
socks
Not to
I've
cut
gone
you off.
through.
I was a big fan of Brooks Ghosts for my regular runs, not my super long runs, but for
Yeah.
my regular runs, Brooks Ghosts. But their newest one, the 17 or 16 one that just came out, hurts my feet. I don't know why. It's never hurt my feet before, but they're so sure that they always need to change because
Right.
it's got to change for some stupid reason.
Right.
And now, for the first time in 5 years, I'm not going to be running in Brooks Ghosts anymore.
Yeah. I found that the ultras are great because I like the wider toe box, and then my toes aren't so trashed. And some of them are a zero drop, but for the trails I love them because they have great traction. And then darn tough socks.
Oh, no, I use features for socks, but
I
it's a
used to use
different.
features
Yeah.
before too because of the planters and all that stuff. Darn tough and ultras. I don't get blisters anymore.
Oh, that's good. Also, but we're running different lengths. So, and also that you have to factor that in. Like my longest run of the week is 12 miles, so you're probably doing way more than that. When you're,
That's a true statement. So I correlate that to running on the trails and rocks
right.
and stuff in Arizona. So that to me is
It changes. Yeah.
it changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even going in the 250, talking with the coaches is like, this is about your feet. This is about recovery. This is about all in the moment, not waiting till later on,
Right.
but taking care of that all in the moment. And so I have I'm going to have 3 or 4 different types of shoes.
Yeah, I have a long run shoe, a short run shoe, a fast run shoe, a waterproof shoe. It all depends on what I'm doing,
Perfect.
So I
Yeah.
have that, and then also you should run in different. I'm sure you've told this before, but it's good to run in different shoes because if you're making a mistake every time you run, at least it's changing because the toe box is different or whatever. So you're not further making that problem worse by running in the same shoes over and over again.
Yeah. Ralph, oh my God, this has been a fun conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
Been really, really super great. So let's leave our last words of advice for of inspiration for our listeners.
What I would say to anybody, find, like you said, not to quote South Park, but an accountability buddy. Somebody
Yeah.
that's going to be someone that you would be embarrassed to tell them you didn't do it. That maybe it's a pact with the two of you. Maybe it's your social media following. Maybe it's just you on your Facebook page or wall. You tell everyone, I'm going to run 3 days this week. Please remind me. Or, please challenge me. Whatever's going to work for you. Because also, the best workout is the one you do. So maybe it's not running. Maybe it's jumping rope. Maybe it's walking. So you don't, just because you're listening to running and you think you've tried a bunch of times, you never got out there. Maybe running's not for you. Maybe it's jumping rope. Maybe it's walking. Who knows? But
Or maybe
find
it's
the thing.
hiking, or maybe it's swimming, or maybe
Be
it's
whatever.
hiking,
It's the one you do. It's the one you do. That's the best workout in the world is the one you do.
Exactly. Ralph, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.